And welcome back to TLDR issue number 49. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. With me, as always, is my hunk in crime. Together, we are the Woodward and Bernstein of the DSG. Fryer, my guy. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great, Doc. I tell you what, we have there was a lot of shit that came out this week, and I don't mean it in a bad way. There's a lot of good stuff, and we've managed to cram in a lot of it. I mean, we also get a ton of review copies too, so that helps. Yeah. But I know, and I'll tell you what, without getting into any details, just, I've been very excited for this episode because, this stuff that's related to Dorktober or Scotttober, as some are calling it now. Very excited to talk about the book that I have planned for today. And it may show up in, Dork's been talking about a list that they're going to do another comics related list. I think it's safe to assume that we're going to be involved in that.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. We've had a bit of a comic renaissance here. And the fact that it took you a year to get Hoopla is absolutely astounding. But Keith's got it now, and you guys, we're all just ripping through books. We're comics is really, Dork's been talking about them a lot more, which is great. And tis the fucking season, Nicholas, because from now until December, it's going to be fucking Bookapalooza.
Yes. So for those who don't know, everybody who listens to the show knows Joe has been trying to get me on Hoopla for how long now? I mean, pretty much the length of the show, right?
Pretty much. About a year now.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't doing it because you have to get a library card. I don't have a library card. And I was like, I'm not going to go back to my old public library that I used to go to when I was in middle school because I just didn't like that place because I didn't like the librarians were kind of annoying. And then I remembered, I don't live there anymore. I don't live in that town. So I have a different library. And dude, I went to the Fall River Public Library. Awesome. I loved it there. They have so much different shit. Rented a bunch of Alfred Hitchcock movies. Didn't even know they had movies. Rented Mortal Kombat. What's the latest one? 11. Yep. I'm renting that so I can test that out. Didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm pumped about that. So it's just, seriously, you texted me a gif of what was it?
Arthur.
Yeah. So you can never. They're never out of. What the hell was it?
Having fun is not very hard when you have a library card.
Exactly. Honestly, it's freaking true though. And with Hoopla too, it gets even better. I mean, the book that I'm talking about today was the first book I read on Hoopla. So much stuff. Look, you should absolutely have a Comixology subscription. You support your local comic shop too. But at the same time, you should get Hoopla as well because you're going to get so much comics on there. It's crazy.
And check the library as well. They're going to have physical copies of novels and all that. Yeah.
And they will. And if you prefer having a hard copy, they don't have exactly what you're looking for. Some the one I'm at, Fall River, they have a ton of other libraries that they're kind of.
Yeah.
I think it's a chain or whatever. It's like sales or whatever. But anyways, they can get you the stuff that you need. It's awesome. I could not recommend it more. I cannot believe I've waited so long. I guess I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say.
My library, so the Dedham Public Library, the main branch, they had a great collection of graphic novels and manga, and they've been during COVID. They sort of been moving stuff around. They had to sort of reformat how they had their library set up for social distancing and all that. So where their comic section was on the main floor, now they moved it up, and I went up there and they had nothing. It's a comics, and there was nothing. So I don't know if they just haven't, anywho. But you very much can just go to the front desk, say I'm looking for this title, and they will order it. You'll get an email, you pick it up, and you got it for however long. And so, rip it through books, baby.
So even if you don't have a library that has comics, which by the way, the Fall River one has a ton of manga stuff too. They have comics, but they have even more manga. It's just worth it to get Hoopla. I mean, Joe said it before. I absolutely love it. Rich is using it now. I mean, I'm tweeting all the stuff he's been reading, and it's just easier now because you have all this stuff at your fingertips. So Comixology, that local comic shop, and then you're never going to be you're never going to have an issue reading stuff. It's just all there. Yeah. And I know somebody asked you, I think on Instagram in the DMs. I don't know if AWA's stuff is on there because they were looking on Hoopla. I don't know.
I haven't really checked. And they're usually fairly current, but I got to imagine newer stuff that comes out within the last month or so. It probably takes time for them to get a digital copy, get it, all that stuff. So just always check it. That's my suggestion: is always check it. Not MAGA stuff, Brick. Manga. Yes. Not MAGA shit.
But I think with Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But when you like, and that's where there's the difference. Like some local comic shops will have this old stuff that you haven't gotten to over the years necessarily or whatever. But like the Losers, right? That's a Vertigo book that I would like to read. That movie's on Netflix. I'd like to go back and read the source material at some point. I can't get it at my local comic shop, and they have a ton of stuff over in Seacock. But now I go check Hoopla. I haven't looked for yet on Hoopla, but I would imagine it's going to be there. Like it's just they have a lot of. They don't have everything, but they have a lot of stuff there. So it's just good to have it all at your fingertips. But speaking of Comixology too, in the course of all this, of course, we know with October we're going to be getting three Snyder series. One being with Greg Capullo. We Have Demons, or it's We Have Demons, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yeah,
that's going to be the first one. That's on October 5th, and then I think it's Clear. And then it's that other one that has like the horror movie vibe, the Ghouls one.
Yeah. So I haven't memorized all the names yet, but that's all right.
It's going to be in that order. I think the Clear one is with Francis Manipal. But we've talked about this for a while. We're very excited for the start of all this. It's going to be Comixology, and then eventually this stuff's going to come out in hard copy on Dark Horse or from Dark Horse. But you and I are going to have to figure out what we want to do, because we'd like to talk about these books on the show at length at some point, right? We don't want to do like what we're going to do with Last Ronin necessarily, right. What we did with Three Jokers. So we've been talking about maybe doing a draft.
Yeah, so I think because there's going to be more than 3 titles total, right? There's going to be like 5 or 6.
I think it's 8, Joe.
Right. So so I think next week will be our monthly solicit. So in lieu of Nick's favorite topic, catching up, we'll do a quick little draft, and hopefully by then we will have at least read the first issue to some of these books. So we'll do a little draft, and then you'll get to see live reaction how heartbroken one of us is when we don't get to continue reading the Snyder Capullo book going forward, because whoever gets the second pick is really going to miss out on that.
I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Like I honestly was thinking about like texting you, saying like, hey, like let's not do this. Let's just have it straight up, and we'll just read them all, or maybe just do it with the Capullo Snyder one. As much as I'm excited for all the others, like
content, baby.
Yeah, I know, you're right. So that's going to be coming up next week in lieu of catching up, which you have nothing to offer for catching up this week, right?
Surprisingly enough, and you can thank Image and Boom for that, because Image had a fuck ton of books come out this week, and I damn near read them all. And Boom, Boom has only really had a book or 2 maybe, and they had 4 this week, and I had to I didn't have to read those, but I read them all and they were great.
You did? All right. Well, we're going to talk about that more quickly. Just want to note that I did catch up on Black Widow. It was issue 11 last week. I continue to enjoy that series. And then Hellboy and the BPRD 1957 Family Ties. Finally, I got a chance to look at that too. That came out last week, and I really enjoyed it. I love these little things that they do. They're just short stories with Hellboy and sometimes other members of the BPRD. And when you talk about horror books, like this is a character who deals with the macabre a lot. And I know on the big screen, like he's not necessarily beloved after what happened with what's the actor's name? Harbour?
Yeah, David Harbour.
David Harbour, thank you. I want to say Jason. But after his portrayal and the way that whole movie was done, but I've said it before, the way that was done and all the weirdness in it was accurate for the comics, but I just don't think it was a smart decision if you're trying to bring in a larger audience. I did like the Perlman stuff.
I was going to say the Perlman movies were great, especially the second one there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I like the first one more, but either way, I enjoyed them both. But they made adjustments on that end that time around. Either way, I still like the comic. I don't know if it's going to make that list, that top 10 list that Dork's talking about doing. But that's a conversation for another day. It is now time for us to move over to what's new, Joe. Let's start with DC. We got a couple things that got pushed back. There was the Suicide Squad King Shark thing that was supposed to come out this week.
Oh, that's right.
That was in our folder, and then that got pushed back. Batman versus Big Me, a Wolf in Gotham issue 1. I actually read that before it got moved out of that folder. It's we still have access to it, but that's something that I look at, planning on reviewing. I'll tell you what, we joked about it, but I actually kind of like this first issue enough that I'm going to go and give it another read whenever that second issue comes. But we'll talk about that more another time, maybe, because again, that's not out this week. Superman: Son of Kal issue 3. Did that get pushed as well?
Yeah, and that's the one I was looking forward to reading the most outside of Nightwing this week. And,
Unreal.
So it's all got pushed to next week. I don't know why, but it did, and it sucks. But I didn't have too much DC to read this week, so that was nice.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that would have been maybe too much Tom Taylor in 1 week, I guess, because you also have Nightwing. No, Nightwing 84, then Batman the Detective issue 5. We also got Batman Secret Files Miracle Molly issue 1, Aquaman the Becoming issue 1, which I did read, and it was fine. I think it's good, just not something that I'm particularly going to be interested in moving forward. It's not for me. I think it's more for a younger audience. And then Batman 113, which of course you are reading. But I'll tell you what, we didn't talk about this before, what's new, but Taylor tweeted out this week that I think it's Nightwing 87. They're doing one, there's going to be no panels.
Yeah.
That I can't wait to see what this looks like.
I haven't been buying. I mean, I bought the first book that Tom Taylor wrote for Nightwing, and then I've just been reading our review copies. I'm 100% buying that issue for sure.
I need to see, I will read it in the review form, but I need to see the physical version of it.
Because in the review form, it's going to be weird because the pages are all going to be offset, and I feel like that you need to have pages open, full spread, if you will, not to get crass.
Wow.
Open that bitch up and enjoy it that way.
Word choice there. Not your best, Joe. Good Lord. Anyways, so then we move over to Marvel. We have X-Men Onslaught's Revelations issue 1, X-Men Legends issue 7, United States of Captain America issue 4. Really enjoying that series. Moon Knight issue 3, same thing. We're both reading X-Men 3, and then we also got the start of the Death of Doctor Strange, in another Marvel event, which you made sure to text me about.
Get the fuck out.
So did you not like it, or you just not like the idea of another event?
The book was fine. I'm getting really tired of the events, even if it seems like it might be a micro event. Just make it. The Death of Doctor Strange issue 1. Make it 6. Make it 8. Make it 12 books, and tell the entire story within those 12 books. Don't make me go buy a bunch of fucking titles I don't want to fucking buy or read. Cut the shit.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's a little annoying, but Joe, I think we'll just be fine just reading the mainline issues for the event.
And the book wasn't even all that fucking great, if we're being honest.
It was solid at best.
The first issue was within the first issue, it was book 1 and book 2, and 90% of the first story, the book of book 1, was just Doctor Strange sucking his own dong, right? And then the thing happened. The Doctor Strange. Spoiler. He dies. Book 2 was much better. The second half of that book, much better. But get the fuck out.
I don't. It's just. But this is kind of the Marvel way in a lot of ways now. It's you're just going to hit you over the head with events after events, and that's it. And that's not what Joe and I are about. As much as we like some of the Marvel stuff, and just in general, it's kind of exhausting. And Joe and I clearly have a ton of room to read a bunch of shit, right?
Right. And backtrack just a smidge. We kind of glossed over this. Going back to DC, they're doing an event themselves right now. This whole Fear Street or Fear State, I should say.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
And we've said it time and time again. When it comes to events, DC generally does it right, but they're following the Marvel fucking blueprint here. And while I've been loving the Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing 84 felt like the Daredevil issues did when they were tied into King in Black, right? Because what has made Nightwing so great? It's been this story of Dick Grayson. It's been the story of what is he going to do with Alfred's money? It's just been written so well, and now it's sort of being shoehorned into this Fear Street storyline, which we're already getting hit over the head with. You don't need that. Just let Nightwing be Nightwing. You want to do the Fear State stuff. You want to have Nightwing being in Fear State, then have Tynan and et al. Who's writing that series, just write Nightwing the way they would write Nightwing for that story and keep it separate. It doesn't all have to always fucking blend in with each other. Right.
I agree with that 100%. You can keep things self-contained. Let the events be their own thing. You can still allude to it and mention it or whatever, but it's just, yes.
That was the first issue of Nightwing that Tom Taylor's written, where I was just like, yeah, it was fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like I didn't like it, but it was I felt like it was being forced into a box that has everything prior to that has just been
been outstanding.
top notch, and this was just like,
I was not ready for that when I saw the Fear State thing come in. I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna have to go through this, but it's the price of dealing with the Bat Family. It's what happens. But I think Taylor, like Zdarsky, ended up getting through it for you. I think that Taylor's going to get through it, and we'll blend 100%. But I do understand that.
Now, did you read X-Men this week?
I did not yet.
No, I'm enjoying that series very much.
Okay, good. Like that's one of the ones that I am behind on for sure. But I'm not, just because other things come up, especially when you got Image pumping out a ton of shit.
Jesus.
And, I mean, when you look at this week, this is. I feel like at least once a month, it's just like, holy shit. Like there's always like one good Image book a week that's like kick ass, but this week is nuts. So you have Philadelphia 17, King Spawn 2, which I reviewed for Geeks Worldwide, Radiant Black #8, Second Chances 4. Those are all books that we're both reading. It's funny. I'm behind on vinyl. You were going to drop off and you're staying on top of it, right?
I am. It's fucked up, man.
You got Siphon issue 3, Sweet Paprika issue 3, Stillwater 10, Summoner's War issue 6. There's also Chew issue 6, and then the Old Guards series that they got going on, Tale Through Times issue 6. So much. How did you feel about Frontiersman, by the way?
Not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it was all right.
It was a little heavy-handed with the environmental stuff, and I just No, not for me, dog. Yeah. I will not be following up on this.
So the first issue of that came out, and I thought it was like, okay. Like it didn't. The saving grace for that for me was it didn't move too slow, but it's just like it's also not a lot happened. Like the dialogue was pretty brisk, I felt like, but in terms of the plot, it was just like.
I didn't even finish, to be honest with you.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean,
I got halfway through, and it was just so like heavy-handed, and it's not like I avoid reading stuff that's not like current, and that. Because a lot of the books I read are heavy, but this just felt like it was one of those times they're really just fucking hitting you over the head, with the environmental stuff. And I didn't really enjoy the premise. I'm sure that, it's going to be a fine book. Just not for me, dog.
Yeah. And I might give it a shot. We'll like on the second issue, we'll see, but there's just so much, Joe, that especially when you look at the 4 books that we love the most coming out of this. You love Stillwater too, so I don't know if these all 4 are your top ones, but Philadelphia, King Spawn, Radiant Black, and Second Chances. I mean, we've talked to actually, we love all those, and that's partially because they're good, but also partially we've had all the writers from those books on the show too to talk about each of those books.
We just got to get Zdarsky out so we talk Stillwater.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Yeah, absolutely. But we haven't had Rodney on in a while. We do need to talk to him because he's got some other Philadelphia adjacent stuff coming.
Yeah, because there's a spinoff of Philadelphia coming out soon.
Yeah.
It looks wild. We got to have him on for sure.
Yeah, we got to follow up with him soon. Now, boom, you mentioned how they had a ton of stuff this week. There's only one thing that I'm reading from them. I fell behind on Dark Blood. I read that first issue and it didn't wow me, but you really like the second issue. How was the third issue?
It's great. So like like I said, the first issue, I felt like they could have flip-flopped the second issue and the first issue, and it would have made a little bit more sense. But third issue was great. I mean, it's just there's something cooking here. There's good story writing. You're setting up who your good guys, who your bad guys. Your bad guys are really detestable. It's hard to explain, but Nick, follow up on it. It's this one's a good one for sure.
This is one when I first saw it right away. I was like, oh, this like even before I read it, I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to be interested in this. And it's not that I didn't like it. It just didn't wow me like I expected it to. So expectations kind of took over. And it's just so much to read. It's
still a little slow, in terms of action. But the author is really, really, getting into the racial stuff, really leaning into the time period. But you're learning more and more about the main protagonist, and there was this great sort of like, flashback present day of him in the war and where he is present day and how they're very similar circumstances. So it's a very interesting book. I think it does need to pick up a little bit in the action front. But so far, I've been enjoying the hell out of this. This is one of the books that goes to the top of my pile when it comes out.
Really? Top your pile?
Not at the top, but near the top.
But that's still saying a lot, Joe. When you look at all the stuff that came out this week, I'm not like questioning you. That says a lot about that series right there alone. Because again, those 4 books and then Stillwater too. Like there's a lot of good stuff that came out from Image this week. But again, boom, doing really well. You also have both of us. You talk about action. This thing is Once in Future, issue 20. the last look, Kieran Gillen is so good about like just leaving you with like, what the fuck at the end of the issue. And it's different with whatever book you're talking about. But of course, we care most about Die and Once and Future. We get Once and Future issue 20 this week. We're getting Die issue 20 next week. And he just opened up a whole nother like realm of possibilities with the end of Once and Future 20.
And what I love too with Gillen's approach to Once and 20 is like there's periods where it's a little like, like issue 19, it was like, okay, not a lot going on. It was a bit of a slower issue. And then boom, the end and then with issue 20 picks right up from that pace, and then it is almost what I mean, like it's full throttle. So he does this where like the lulls aren't really lulls, they're just like it's like he sets you up perfectly every time. Like I felt like this happened like right around like maybe might have been issue 15, 16, and then boom, it ramps up. And then so just I love and that's the other thing too, is like you always think he's going to go in one direction, and then next thing you know, it's a fucking pivot, and then it's a rocket ship in the other direction, and then so it's when fantastic.
You think about this series, it's like there is so much. Like I remember you saying at one point, like you thought there was going to be time to wrap it up, and then that changed. Like after it was like a couple issues, I think that happened for you, and then you're like, no, this is not going to end. There's no way. And I agree with, and I've never felt like it was going to end like early, but Die.
This was only supposed to be a 6-issue book, I think, too.
Yep, and it could have been done that way. It absolutely could have been done that way, but I'm so glad that wasn't the case. I do have one question for you though, for Once and Future 20. The character we're introduced to on like the last page of issue 19, we see more of that character in issue 20. We don't get the answer to who that is, right?
We don't, but I think you need to assume it is a mirror of the main antagonist, right?
That's what
so it's almost like mirror, like now, like we're dealing with mirror worlds. Right?
That's what I thought. That's the only possibility that I was like, is this who it is?
The question is, we don't know if that person is ultimately good or bad.
Yes, there's so many questions.
Yeah. So absolutely fantastic. And so Once and Future 20, we talked about Dark Blood. 2 other books real quick. Eat the Rich #2 came out this week. The first book, I read it, and at the end I was like, okay, I think I like this. This was pretty good. Let's see where issue 2 goes. And then issue 2 just really like opens up the can of worms of what happened from issue 1. So this is going to be a fun series, especially as we get into October, because it's definitely a bit macabre. And then Dune, House of Atreides, #10. I've started reading the book because the movie's coming out in a few weeks, so I want to, I can't wait to go see that movie. And so when I was reading this comic, because it's a sort of a prequel to what happens in Dune, I was like, okay, I think I get it. You know what I mean? Like I'm reading it, I'm being introduced to these characters, and then once I started reading the book, I go, oh, and it made the series that much better. So this has been for those that are new to Dune, don't know what Dune is, this has been a great series.
So something you might want to talk about on the show before the movie.
Quite possibly, yes.
Okay, so keep your peepers popped for that. Then we got Dark Horse this week. Black Hammer Universe Visions issue 8, which is by Scott Snyder. Yep. And then we got Tales from Harrow County, of course, Cullen Bunn. Issue 3 of that is out this week. Aftershock Baby Teeth issue 20. And then we get to IDW with, as much as we said all that stuff about Image, this is the book of the week. TMNT, The Last Ronin issue 4.
Book of the week's the book of the fucking summer, Nick. We've been waiting for this since like April.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. It's been a long time coming for this issue. And I'll tell you what, you read it before I did. You texted me about how awesome it was, which I fully expected. I didn't expect it to be this awesome.
No, and I forgot that it's only going to be 5 issues. For some reason, I had 6 in my head. So this was the penultimate issue, for this storyline.
I missed that.
Yeah, it said to be concluded right there at the end.
Oh, it said to be. I just assumed it said to be continued. Shit.
To be concluded, yeah. So, like with each, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want it, but this was awesome. The shit with Splinter and just everything that's going on, the war. This has been a fucking awesome series right from the get-go. This was the best issue yet.
Dude, okay, so we don't get into the spoilers with this stuff generally, and I'm not going to do it here. I may with the next book we're talking about, but I'm not going to do it here. But there is a certain character who we see, and it is a flashback within a flashback, which I love the way they did that. The art for that flashback within the flashback was freaking kick-ass.
I think it was Eastman's art.
There's Eastman who's in the first flashback, but then there's a flashback within that, and I'm pretty sure that's Ben Bishop, or is he the main artist on this?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on that. Yeah.
Either way, I loved that, and there's a certain TMNT character, beloved character and everything that we all know and are very familiar with. As far as I know, this is the most badass I've ever seen this character before. Period.
Yeah.
That art alone is just worth the price of this comic. Holy shit.
Yeah, so if you haven't been reading now, I mean, go back, find the past issues, read them, because God knows issue 6 will probably come out in 2023, and then the trade will probably be out in 2028.
Yeah. Dude, they should get
but it's going to be a while.
They need to get that trade out fast. I mean, they don't, but at the same time, they don't need to, because people are still going to buy it. It's not going to matter. Like, you can go.
This is as you'd imagine from, we even talked to Scott Snyder about this at the time, and he said this book was killing it for IDW.
Yeah, I mean, this is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets with TMNT. It's must read for anybody who at all likes them. You do not need to love them. I am not Joe and Goo, someone who is this crazy. Well, you're not that as Goo, but a crazy diehard TMNT fan. I like them a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it doesn't matter. If you just like them a little bit, you're gonna love this series,
because it's gritty and it's great, and it's great storytelling, and the premise of what's going on, and who the last Ronin is, and all the it's just everything about it is a fucking home run.
I think it goes back to kind of the origin of the way these characters were originally written, but with better art. So it's the best of both worlds. So, anyways, then we
won't fucking come out. God damn.
Oh no, I was wondering what you were doing. Anyways, then we go to AWA last before we get into your book for this week, Joe. And we got Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal, issue 5, and of course, you also have the trade paperback for the first 4 issues. I reviewed the 5th issue for Geeks Worldwide, as I have been, and I texted you after I read this, and it was just there's a moment in here. We talk about kick-ass moment in Last Ronin. There's a moment in Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal, issue 5 that's well, fuck. They actually drew this shit?
Yeah. This is the most fucked up crackers thing I've read in a long time, Nicholas.
Oh my God.
And I retweeted your review, and I said, go read this. This is the most bananas, off the wall Garth Ennis thing ever, and I mean that in the best way.
Yeah,
when Garth Ennis is allowed to just be Garth Ennis, I think what happens in this book rivals anything that or comes close to the shit that happens in Preacher. I mean, it was. But here's the thing, right? As visually fucked up as that scene was, the story of this book and the character of
the Lord of
Evil, and even the shit was saying the writing there was fantastic. The storytelling was engrossing. You're looking and going, what the fuck? But then you're just flipping the pages because you want to see what fucked up shit's going to happen next, but also because you want to know the unfolding of the Lord of Evil and his sort of him telling his origin story was some of the best shit I've read in a long time. And
his plan too is also wow, that's genius. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. But the stuff with Stan too, we get more about him and Marjorie Finnegan.
I call him Satan. Yes. Stan,
yes. But either way, his name's Stan. Well, he looks like Satan. It's weird. Yeah. So Stan Zanzibar is his name. But I'll tell you what, the stuff that we get with him is in Marjorie and their origin is fucked up and interesting, but it's there's this is all around a good issue. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10, right?
Yeah,
and it's and I stand by that grade. But I'll tell you what, I look at there's those panels of holy fuck, they actually drew this. To me, it's I'm never gonna think of anything else with it. For the first 5 issues, that is always gonna be the thing that stands out to me most.
100%. And there's been some visuals that have stood out already.
Yeah, yes.
I remember we talked with Axel Alonso, and I think the 2nd issue had just come out, and even he was we were talking, but he goes, "Oh yeah, the image is on page 2 or whatever." I mean,
yes.
There's been a lot of things that stand out, but that this trumps them all. This is gonna be
not even close.
When I think of this series, and there's still 5 or 3 more books to go, right? I think that's still going to be the thing that sticks out most about this entire series.
Yep, this is. I think the way I put it was on the review that this is like you expect weirdness when you read Garth Ennis. Of course, you read comics in general, but it's different with him. And I've gotten some of it, but nothing like from this issue. This is insane.
Yeah, you don't expect it. That's a visual that you just it's very evoking.
Yeah,
it's going to evoke and elicit a response from anyone and everyone that looks at it and reads it for sure.
God bless whatever streaming service or movie production company wants to take this on, because you're going to have to put that in there, because they're going to, if you don't want that. I just don't know how you're going to pull that off. It's going to piss a lot of people off if it's not.
You think?
Yeah, just a bit. But anyways, it is time, Joe. We go from AWA, and it's time for you to tell us about the book that you have planned for this week.
So, leaving off with AWA, there's a great segue, as we like to do with our What's New segment, is we're leading right into my book, which is from AWA Studios. And this week I am talking about Redemption. This was written by Krista Faust and artist Mike Deodato, colorist Lee Luthridge, and Sabine Rich, and letters by Steve Wan. So Deodato and Faust, this is the same team that brought you Bad Mother, which I talked about on the show, not too long ago, a month or two ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I love this team, man. And they're perfect duo for AWA. I mean, Mike Deodato does a lot of the art for a lot of the books at AWA. So if you've read an AWA book, chances are you're familiar with his art. And Krista Faust, this is her second book now, like I just said, and I love her writing. She doesn't hold back. She's not afraid to just get gritty, get violent, and just do the damn thing. And she's a great writer. I definitely want to check out more of her work. But Redemption is a 5-issue book. It's currently out. The trade paperback comes out next week. Part of the reason why I wanted to do the book this week. So if you like what I say here and the book sounds interesting, you can go out, you can pick up the trade and read it all in one fell swoop. So quick synopsis. It's a little lengthy. It's not so quick.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Get out of here. What about that is quick? Let's see you work through this.
There's a joke to be made there about me and quick, but we'll save that for a different day. So anyways, the dusty desert town of Redemption survived the apocalypse, but is hanging on by a thread. A despot rules the town with an iron fist and controls its most precious resource, water. When the strong man marks her mother for death, young Rose Obregon, I can't pronounce her fucking name.
Obregon?
Yes, thank you.
Obregon?
Ventures into the perilous wasteland to seek the help of the legendary gunslinger Cat Tanner, only to discover that the so-called Butcher is long retired, living in solitude, far from what's left of the world, and preferring to keep it that way. When Rose arrives on Tanner's doorstep with gunmen hot on her trail, the Butcher has a choice to make: sit on the sidelines or pick up her guns and do what she does best. And this is a sci-fi Western, Nicholas.
Oh,
right. So, and also as the synopsis would suggest, sort of post-apocalyptic, but it's only really post-apocalyptic sort of visually, right? And the storyline with the water, also, right, because resources are limited and such. But this is really about these 3 main characters of the book, and I'll get to that in just a moment. So this takes place, as the synopsis said, in a town called Redemption, which is walled off from the outside, which is filled with, the outside is filled with cannibals and all sorts of, bad things. And so, water is a rare commodity. It's very valuable, as you'd expect. It's expensive, and people will kill for it because they fucking need it to survive. So this town, Redemption, is run by Sheriff Stonewater, and he is a religious zealot, with a deadly past, a bit of a scumbag. He built Redemption and the walls surrounding it. So you can kind of get the feeling that this character was sort of, again, a very popular target, the past president there. He makes for, set up for easy villains to create. And so you kind of get, a bit of him here. But he is in power. He's not going to relinquish it, and he will do, everything in his control, to keep it that way. And so what I like about the book and the title is redemption, in the story has different meanings, right? It's the name of the town. It's got a Western sort of sound and feel to it, but this is also a story about redemption, with a couple of the characters in it. So it's a bit layered, which is nice. So the story revolves around the town doctor, who, again, we're talking about some difficult themes. Last week with American Carnage, definitely had very difficult themes. This week, again, sort of the story doesn't revolve around this. It's sort of the mechanism that kicks off the plot. But the town doctor, Dr. Obregon, performs an abortion for a young woman / borderline child who had been raped. And so sheriff declares that Dr. Obregon committed murder and she is to be executed for her crime. And they bring the little girl up, and he sort of strong-armed her into saying that she didn't want that procedure done, and the doctor acted against her will. So it's really setting up this sheriff to be, he's not a good dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with Dr. Obregon, or Inez is her name, being sentenced to death, her daughter Rose is going to find a way to free her mom, so that she doesn't want her mom to die, obviously. So she escapes the town of Redemption looking for the quote unquote butcher to help save her mom.
That just sounds like a terrible idea, just to throw that out there. It's awesome for the sake of the story, but just in general, see if I can go get the butcher to help me out. I'm sure that's a reasonable person.
Yeah, I'll talk. So that's part of what makes this book so great, is that character. So for those watching, you can see behind me, on the green screen there, that's the character, that's the butcher. And she is a phenomenal character, a well-written character, a very flawed character. So Rose escapes looking for the butcher, and it's found. The sheriff finds out that Rose is gone. He knows, sort of where she's going, because the butcher has a bit of a reputation and a past with the sheriff. So he sends his thugs out there to kill Rose, because again, at all costs, he's going to make sure he never relinquishes power, and anybody that opposes him is going to die. Essentially. So you also get the feeling that he's also very afraid of the butcher because of their past.
I wonder why someone would be afraid of the butcher.
Yeah, and so when you read about that origin, the story, it's really great. And so this book, Nick, is, it's when I talked about Bad Mother, I remember talking about the violence, the violence, the action, just written how it is, but there's also a lot of great character work. And so what I loved about the story was not just Rose, the journey she goes to find the butcher, and sort of the shit that she goes through on her way there, but then when she does meet up finally with the butcher, and it's a lot of the story is her convincing, Rose trying to convince the butcher to fucking help her. Like, you got to do what's right. And
so let me ask you, before you go further on that, how long does it take for us to meet the butcher? I understand flashbacks and stuff, but how long is it?
First issue.
Okay, good. Okay.
First issue. Yeah. It's all, you get a lot of great action and a lot of great storytelling right out of that first issue. And when you finish the first issue, you can't wait to dive into the second one. When you finish the second, it's a page turner. And so, and the way that it's just written from start to finish, it's just this sort of, all the things that happen. Like, you think the story's going to go this way, and then boom, right? These guys show up, and there's a great action scene here, right? So it's nonstop action really through all 5 issues, which is great. But it's really it's a character work too that I really love, because like I said, I love Deodato's art, and he does a great job at really conveying that that violence on the page. But Kat Turner, aka the Butcher, she's another strong female character. I think this is what Krista Faust does really well, is she writes these characters, because I've never met Krista Faust, but looking for pictures to post on our Instagram page. She looks like a very badass, strong female herself, right? So I think that's why she tends to write these characters. But she's also very flawed, right? The Butcher, as you'd imagine, is going to be a very flawed character. So she's very feared for good reason, and her body count is through the fucking roof. I mean, she doesn't miss when she shoots.
Okay,
and she aims to kill every time. And so you learn about her origins and her relationship, not just with the sheriff, but also with the good Dr. Inez Obregon. Right? There's a personal relationship there. And that's why, and that's part of the reason why Rose is so hell-bent on getting the Butcher. Not just because the Butcher's going to kill some people, right? Because she's the best there is, even though she's a little long in the tooth. She knows that, like, and this is where the story Redemption, or the title Redemption really, plays another part in all this. It's not just the name of the town, but it's also a central theme, of the story. And so learning about the relationship between Kat and Inez, Kat and, the sheriff, and then the relationship that is, forged between the Butcher and Rose herself, and the character Rose. It's just that in and of itself, the writing is just so good. I thought Bad Mother was a good book. This one blows it out of the water, if you ask me.
I'll tell you what. So two things. One, this was on my radar right when it first came out from AWA, like even before you had called dibs. But I think I just kind of one of those things where I thought like I was way behind on it. Actually, I just saw the cover and I was like, oh, this has been out for a while. And then lo and behold, that wasn't the case, but you'd already said you want to do it on the show. So I've been in on this series, like ready to get rolling on this series since I first saw the cover art for this shit. But the other thing was, I'm pretty sure I saw I think it must have been the Butcher in getting a little buzz on social media fairly recently for being a character. She's an LGBTQ plus character, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that now I'm even more interested in the whole doctor relationship because I'm not necessarily going to assume it's a love story because
Yeah, you got to read it. It's absolutely fantastic. And I think what also makes her character even stronger, and this is just from a visual standpoint, is that Mike Deodato draws her to look very much like Linda Hamilton. Like badass Terminator 2 Hamilton.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can kind of see it behind me, right? But like when you see her drawn, it looks like Linda Hamilton. And she's a badass character, right? So it all, like everything just really sort of came together, especially for that character. I mean, she's one of the greats, in terms of, badass kick-ass women, put on the comic book page. And then you have Rose, as I said, it's Inez, Inez's daughter, who she's the doctor of the town, and she's great with machines. One of the things you learn about Kat, the Butcher, is that she's got a mechanical hand, right? And the story behind that, so she's able to sort of upgrade her parts, and she's just, she's like Donatello, man. She does machines, but she's tenacious. She's not going to stop at anything to help her mom, with the Butcher's help or not. And this, how that unfolds through the story is great. And then, you have Sheriff Stonewater, who's your typical narcissistic scumbag villain, right? Ripped out of the headlines. And the origin that you get between him, or not the origin, I should say, but the backstory you get between him and the Butcher, as I said, before, is also awesome. So you understand why he fears her and why he very much wants her dead as well. So, you've got that, and then with Deodato's art, like I said, it's always brilliant. It's a perfect blend of realism and comic style. So like, it feels like it could be a movie when you like. I know you like to ask that question, but it's just the way he draws.
Well, this sounds like it's a movie for sure. I mean, I'm getting like obviously it's Western, but I'm getting serious like John Wick vibes. John Wick in its own right is kind of Westernish. Like the first one, obviously not set in the Old West and everything, but
that's what I love about Deodato's art, is because it always has that cinematic kind of quality to it when he draws.
Yeah, I look again. I was interested in this book already, but now like to have affirmation that it's like your confirmation that it's definitely worth my time. I'm getting on this. Like I'm getting that trade paperback when it comes out the last week of September. No question about it.
And it's awesome. A quick read too, because it is, the pacing of it is so quick. The action, it never feels like it's bogged down for storytelling purposes. Like even in the flashbacks, there's action, and it's quick, and it's page turning. And as soon as you grab this trade, you'll have it finished in one sitting, like lickety split.
Oh, really? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. And so this is up there for like, I don't think we're ever going to do an episode like this where we like rank all our favorite books from a certain publisher or whatever, because that changes in time and everything like that. But would you say like this is like, tentatively among your like top 10-ish AWA books?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've only read about 10 AWA books, but it's.
You've read more than that, Joe. I mean, I know they only publish so much, but like you've done. Yeah, you've read more than that. I've read.
Yeah, I put it right up there with American Ronin, Resistance. I put it right up there as one of my favorites, hands down.
Yeah. Now, how many completed ones you read may be another story too. That's the other part of it. So, but anyways, awesome. So that would be, like you said, you would make that in a movie for sure. I mean, that to me is a no-brainer.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. So now we're gonna go back to actually one of Axel Alonso's previous employers, I guess, whatever. But now, of course, Vertigo no longer around. But Joe, you did a Vertigo book last week. I did a Vertigo book the week before. We've never done anything on Preacher, and maybe someday we will, just because we both read it. Of course, it doesn't fall under our TLDR format. But one book that does is The Wake by Scott Snyder and Sean Murphy, and it is a sin that it took me this long to read this book. Of course, colors, I say Sean Murphy. If Sean Murphy's the artist on anything, colors are by Matt Hollingsworth. And I'll tell you what, like, I thought, I'm like, as I was doing research for that, for Dorktober coming up and everything, and again, that list that Dork may or maybe not be doing, I'm like, all right, I want to see what else is out there from horror books that I've read, because I've read horror books, but not as many as you, not as many as Rich. I do like them, and I'm getting into them even more now, as I've watched The Conjuring, a million different times. So I want to make sure that I'm reading more stuff too, trying to expand my knowledge in the horror realm, and I just loving it more. So this was one that came up on my radar as a horror book, which it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. So like I'll get into that a little more. But first, it's a 10-issue series, so this will be really quick for you. This is the first series that I read on Hoopla, and again, like you talk about being a page turner, this is shit. I mean, if you like Sean Murphy's art too, this thing is fast. It's quick moving, and of course, Scott does, he's a great writer and everything like that. So I could not wait to give this a shot. And like I actually originally had another book planned for this week, as you know. And it was an awesome book, don't get me wrong. And I will definitely talk about it on the show. Probably not till November at the earliest, though, because we got Dorktober coming up. I have some horror books that I want to do. And then this was there, too. So let me read the synopsis real quick. When marine biologist Lee Archer is approached by the Department of Homeland Security to help with a new threat, she declines, but quickly realizes they won't take no for an answer. She is plunging into the depths of the Arctic Circle to a secret underwater oil rig filled with roughnecks and scientists on the brink of an incredible discovery. When things go horribly wrong, the scientific safe haven will turn into a house of horrors at the bottom of the ocean. So this is basically the synopsis for like the first half of the series. Again, this is a short. There's only 10 issues, right, to this whole thing. I think it's like the first 5 issues cover this. It might even be the first 4. I can't remember, because I just read through the whole thing like in 2 sittings. And when you go to DC's website, actually, when you went to Comixology and you saw this under horror, right?
Yeah. They had it listed on horror.
Horror,
fantasy, sci-fi, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so horror, but either way, horror is the first thing, and the first half of this absolutely is horror, no doubt about it. And it's like they describe it as like a deep sea horror on DC, which of course it's water and all that stuff makes sense. If you look at the cover, you kind of like one of the main cover for the trade, you kind of can see that too. But it's also labeled as a post-apocalyptic sci-fi, which is what half of the book is. So when you talk about like all-time great horrors, I really thought they did the horror portion of this very well. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if I don't know what I count this as, because it's half of the book is legitimately not horror at all. Don't get me wrong. There's like, you're still dealing with some, violence and like stuff, but it doesn't have that same vibe whatsoever. That said, the horror stuff was like I said, it was really good. I really enjoyed that stuff. And you're talking about, and that's mainly with Lee Archer, who you've got stuff from her past that's kind of getting mix of all this, and then you have stuff in the present, and then we see other kind of flashbacks and all this too, and like it puts Sean Murphy's art to the test, because you're dealing with the future, you're dealing with basically present day now for us, as much as this is like an aughts book or like 2010s, I can't remember exactly. and then you see stuff like in ancient times, kind of like, caveman and all that stuff. But like that's where, like, if you love Sean Murphy, like this is a great testament to his artwork. Like I think that the plot was also as well, because he does a whole bunch of different shit that he doesn't normally do. But this was like even more so, because it's just like it's different time periods, and it's like his art still is like not much different from each one, but it still holds up perfectly. And I was really impressed by that. Normally we talk about what the book is actually about, right? Like you go into detail about like when we say what the book is about, it's like a central theme, commentary. Of course, like when we talk about Sean Lewis, that probably happens the most with him. Zdarsky, same thing, Jeff Lemire, and Snyder as well. But with this, I can't tell you what this book is ultimately about in the end, because you have to wait till the end to find out what it like really was like about. I will say it's more about a commentary than anything. And then there's kind of like internal stuff that you'll like think about, but it's more like a big like what if. And I'm not giving anything away, but it's just like I did not see it coming whatsoever. Like they hint at it kind of, but I don't think you can wrap your head around what Scott was going for in this till you get to the very end. But it's like, oh shit, I've never thought about it that way. And it's just like, I liked the horror half of this more, but the ending, when we get to the sci-fi fantasy stuff of it, and the sci-fi fantasy stuff, I think is where Sean's art takes over a little bit more. So you have the fun action feel of it and everything, but you like don't know where the ending is going to go throughout most of it. And then Scott just hits you with like, whoa. But I think Scott's writing was what shined a little bit more in the first half of this, because it's just like you get like that like anxiety feeling. Like the first issue like sets the table, and then it's like oh fuck the rest of the way until Lee Archer's part in the story is like comes to an end, because then you go into the future and everything. But yeah, I absolutely love this. And in the course of it all, Joe, it has me asking this question that I want to ask you. Have you ever wondered what's at the bottom of the ocean floor?
No, because it's just death.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, when you read this, because you will read this and you will love it, you will never, like, you'll just, again, you won't want to think about that too much. You'll help yourself in the moment. But I'm like thinking about this, like, holy shit. Is this what I watched Jaws recently, because Lauren and I just wanted to watch it, and like then it's like, oh, like there's that in the water, right? You're worried about sharks and stuff, but then there's this shit that comes up, and it's like, fuck.
In all seriousness, I am more fascinated about what's at the bottom of the ocean than what's up in the stars.
I'm right, with you on that.
Because we know. I think generally we know a great deal about like space, but what is at the bottom of the ocean floor, I think there's still so much unknown. And like, we love to watch, Shark Week in this house. And when they always do an episode on like sharks of the deep, and there's some real fucked up things living down there. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what's down there. And so I find that to be really fascinating.
I think it's surprising, like the stuff that's out there, like in space and everything. Generally, like just cosmic stuff doesn't interest me as much, because I think there's so much else going on here that we just have no freaking clue about whatsoever. Yeah. And I'll tell you what too, like Lee Archer in this story, like she poses something that like at first I'm like taking it as fact. The way Scott wrote it is so well done, and it's like, is this actually like? And you find out later, like there was something else at play that you didn't realize. But it just makes so much sense that what's going on could actually happen in real life. And that, I think, is what's so impressive about the horror portion of this too. Is like, yeah, like Scott's building all the suspense, but then it's like, wait, this could like really happen. And then you have the fear of like, if you have fear of water and then like the ocean in any capacity, and then what's at the bottom of it, which again, like back to what you were talking about. I mean, you watch like Finding Nemo, right? Like we again watched that fairly recently, and you see that like that monster with like the light and the big teeth and everything that pops
the
up.
anglerfish.
Yeah, okay, there you go. The anglerfish, like that thing's like, oh fuck, and it's like that's probably that again scratching the surface, like of what's at the bottom of the ocean where it's just dark everywhere.
I've got a rule, Nick. I don't put my feet in anything that's not in any natural body of water. Pools only.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Fuck the lakes. Fuck the sharks. Love them. Interesting. Nope. Ponds. Fuck no. Creepy shit, slimy shit. Nope. Pools. Give me pools. I want to be able to see my fucking feet through the water.
A pond would be good for you, though.
Nah, fuck the ponds. Yeah, gross. Ponds are gross.
You didn't get that reference, but that's okay. Anyways, but I think that like I generally agree with you. Like I don't like the ocean as much, but I do sometimes go in the water stuff. But I can't help it. I can't help but get a little bit worried. Like you get in the ocean, it's like
fucking sharks could be as close as 3 feet of fucking water.
3
I mean,
feet.
I know for me that's over my head, but for everyone else, that's just up to your shins.
Oh, by the way, happy Hobbit Day. I forgot to mention that.
You.
Yes, sir. Congrats. I'm so happy for you. It's a big day for your community. But what was I going to say? Yeah, I didn't know it was 3 feet. So that's
they get there real close. So yeah,
I don't love that. Yeah, so they may be adopting that rule pretty soon. You and I, we get to our imagination can't get the best of us sometimes.
Sure can.
But when you talk about like the bottom of the ocean floor, again, if you find any of that interesting, like what the story that Scott comes up with here is fascinating. It's also scary. And then the way the world evolves from the ripple effect from the first half of the story to then lead to the ending and the discoveries that, the character, I don't want to talk like, well, that character in the future, her name is Leeward. I don't want to talk too much about her. But like, that's who you're going to be dealing with throughout the majority of that portion of the story.
This has to be a movie though, right?
This would be a movie 1,000%. And honestly, like you can make some changes, I'm sure, in the course of it to make it into a movie, but you can pull a lot of what's on the page and make it a movie, and it's going to kick ass. It's going to be really, really fucking good. Some kick-ass characters in this too, like that. Like I'm not highlighting like that get brought in with Lee Archer initially, and we see a little bit more, quite a bit of them. But it's just the story. Like you don't even like. Sometimes we talk more about the characters. Sometimes the plot takes over, and it can be for different reasons. This is just the plot, and it's just an interesting story that will wow you.
Yeah, it's a hell of a team. Snyder,
Murphy,
right?
Oh my god, yeah. It's so good. It's can't recommend it enough. And I looked at it as like a good transition into Dorktober, Doctober, Scotttober, whatever we want to call it these days. I like Doctober the most personally.
Let's do it, Doctober.
But like it's a good transition because it's like it's definitely half horror, but the other half's not horror whatsoever. Gotcha. So it's like it's in that kind of it's like in its area of its own. But I can't recommend it enough. So
awesome.
The Wake. So anyways, make sure you guys go follow Doc on Twitch. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're breaking stuff down on there a little bit more if you guys aren't able to watch us live, or if you if you're not able to listen to us in audio form, go subscribe over there. It's a new thing that we're doing, and trying to give you guys something a little bit different over there as well. And then Joe, of course, in addition to you doing all your gaming over on Twitch, you guys got Psych. I've heard it both ways this week.
Yep. Season 3, episode 5. Disco didn't die. It was murdered.
Oh, okay.
Fun episode. Mm-hmm. And make sure you follow Davey, Shime, myself on Twitch, because I think tonight, depending on when you listen to this, sometime either Wednesday night or Thursday night, whenever. You probably already missed it, but follow us on Twitch because we're going to try and do some Fall Guys.
Well, I think Davey's exclusively on YouTube now. They've like streamlined it. It's all on the Dork channel.
Right.
Yes, yep. But for you and Shime, you guys are absolutely on Twitch. Yep. So make sure that you go follow there. And we don't mention to subscribe to the audio channel. Of course, we always want you to do that. And make sure you tell a fellow, nerd, dork, geek, comic book reader, whoever. Let them know, or anybody who just likes good stories, because that comics don't get their fair shake in that regard. Like that's what we talk about, quality stories. That's why we only do so much Marvel and DC. We love those characters. We like some of those stories, but like the best stories are from indie comics. There's no two ways about it. So make sure you let somebody know and subscribe, because Joe and I occasionally have stuff that comes out of the blue outside of our mainstream, episodes. So you never know when things are going to pop up. And that's because we don't tell you guys until we have it in the can, because we don't like to jinx shit. So we want to make sure that's the best way to make sure you never get, caught by surprise, at least in a bad way, maybe a good surprise, right?
Only good surprises, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So until next week then, Joe, stay sexy.
You know it.